This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeremy Wolf.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Wolf. And before we get into the guest today, I want to give a little story. I don't typically do this, but there is a little backstory here, which I find kind of amusing. So I want to share it with everyone. Our guest today, actually, the first time I spoke with her was about 2 years ago when I was starting Cooper City Living magazine. I remember I was prospecting and I was looking for local businesses to call, and I happened upon the Chamber of Commerce site, and there was a list of businesses there. And I'm going down the list, I'm making cold calls, and lovely lady answers, and I give her my little opener, my little ask, and she comes back with an invite. Says, hey, Jeremy, if you want to connect with a lot of businesses, you should come check out the Cooper City Davie Cooper City Chamber of Commerce. And she gave me a contact over there, Raphael Walters. Was it Walters? Yeah, Walters, right? I think Raphael.
Yes.
Raphael Walters.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, spoke with Raphael. Actually, I didn't call him right then and there. I kind of filed that away in my mind, and I went back to I was grinding away. I went back, called the next name on the list. Lovely lady answered. Same thing. I gave her my opener, and I was greeted with a friendly invitation to join the Chamber of Commerce in an eerily similar way. And I said, that's funny. I just spoke with a lovely lady, and she said the same exact thing in a very similar way. And she said, what was her name? So it was Aimee Sanchez-Zadak. And she goes, oh, that's my mother. I was speaking to Angelica Zadak. Fast forward 2 years, I've been a chamber member for about that time. I've had Angelica on the podcast, and here we are full circle with our guest today, Aimee Sanchez-Zadak, who joins us she's wears a lot of hats. She owns Balloonatics, ZADAC Research and Development, and has been a driving force within the Davie Cooper City Chamber of Commerce for quite some time now. So I'm excited to have her on the show to hear all about her journey. So Aimee, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. I'm really excited. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah,
I always love this. I always love chatting with you.
Oh, yeah. The feeling is mutual, of course. So let's get into it. And you start where you'd like. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll kind of get into the backstory behind it.
Okay. So we're entrepreneurs, obviously, as you mentioned with my daughter. My daughters are entrepreneurs as well, but we started a company called Balloonatics about 31 years ago. And it wasn't part of our life plan. My husband and I worked for corporate, and we needed cash. We were basically broke. We had just started a family. So we started this little side hustle, which everybody calls now. And we were selling balloons, which was just, birthday balloons to our office friends. And we listed ourselves. We became legal. We went, we were at Cooper City at the time. We listed our little home-based business, and we get a call from this place called the Davie Cooper City Chamber of Commerce. And my first question was, what is the Davie Cooper City Chamber of Commerce? And the executive director at that time, Celia, she was phenomenal. She said, you really need it. You need to expose your business, and we'll help you. And I was like, I don't have time. I'm working corporate. I just had a baby. I'm going for my master's. So yeah, it's a little hectic. And she's just come to one meeting. So they came, we signed up. Great. Next step, they go, join a committee. And I'm like, oh, don't do it. Don't. And you know how we feel as business owners, it's one step and then the next. And they go, just come to one committee meeting.
Like slowly roping you in. Like, just come to a meeting, come to a lunch, check it out.
Yes.
Come to a committee meeting. It'll be come on.
Yes, you'll love it. And I'm like, so I had a temper tantrum, went anyways, and showed up, and there were these amazing people there. And it was a communication committee, and we were working on a newsletter at that time. And the Miami Dolphins were going to be our hosts for the next breakfast. We had a breakfast going on. And they said, you're new. Let's introduce you to the Dolphins. Why don't you call them and ask them what would they like the newsletter to say, and what are they going to be sharing? And I said, I've never done this. Like, I'm not a communication major, psychology, yes, communication, which is kind of related, but So called him. The gentleman that answered the phone was an intern who had just started with the Miami Dolphins. So it was the blind leading the blind. Like, what do we do here? And I said, listen, I'll write something up. You approve it. I'll post it. And at that time, it was hard copy. Nothing was on email. And he said, sure. And I go, and hey, by the way, since I'm going to be at that breakfast, how about if I bring some balloons and decorate the place so that it'll be, nice? And he said, sure. So we did that. Met him at the breakfast. His name was Rhett Taccone. So Rhett Butler Taccone, which was interesting. So that led to another conversation. Met him, talked to him. That afternoon, he called me and he said, listen, we're doing this thing called Sports Town. Do you remember Sports Town at Joe Robbie Stadium? I don't know if you...
No, I wasn't really down here until like full time until after college.
Gotcha.
I don't know how long ago that was.
That was in the 1993.
Yeah, I was in New York in 93.
That's crazy, right? Yeah. You were probably in elementary school.
Let's not go down memory hill right now.
So we did. We went. I didn't know how to do a quote. I mean, this is a big company, right? So I put together this quote. He calls me back. He said, it's a deal, and we've been with them for 31 seasons. So that's my chamber story. And when people complain, I go, oh, don't complain, So that really created a loyalty to the chamber because it was Celia pushing me every time I didn't want to. It's like a mentorship program, now we call it like, our mentors. And she knew, and that wasn't the only thing. She introduced me to so many other businesses that I wouldn't have connected with. And it wasn't like come to a luncheon and then network, go on your own. It was, wait a second, this is a person I want you to connect with because I think that's going to fit. So that's really
so cool. I love that. It reminds me of a quote I heard. I don't know if you know Chris Williamson. I think that's his name. He has a podcast he does, very sharp guy. And he said that the magic you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding.
Yes.
That came to mind because you said there was resistance to the committee. You're like, I don't want to do that. I'm busy with this. And you kind of just said, no, let me lean into this. And then you got into it and it created a connection and then kind of launched seemingly sounds like it kind of launched your business off to.
Oh, it did 100%. Yeah. Because at that time, what happened was that Mr. Huizinga owned the Dolphins, the Marlins, and the Panthers. So we became very well known in the sports industry. And then every time someone, the college games and all that, since we were working with the stadium, it was like, oh, you got to.
You were the go-to. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same thing with the Panthers. It was, well, we only allow these people in our suites to do this decor because we knew that we couldn't use helium. It was very specific to the customer, so we worked around it. We had that corporate background, my husband and I, so it was easy to follow and understand that first of all, the charging method to corporate, everyone thinks that, oh, you've got the Miami Dolphins, you got to charge them, the larger the company, the less the budget.
Interesting.
It's not now, if you're looking at brides and bar mitzvahs, that's a whole different story. There's kind of is no budget there.
Why the larger the company, the smaller the budget?
Because they create their budget yearly. So they go, okay, in events, we're only going to spend X amount of money. So we have $10,000 for the year on special events, and they can't sway.
Whereas the smaller events, there's like not really a budget. It's a one-off, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to go at it really hard and invest a lot of money in.
Right. So brides, they want something, they're going to get it. And it's not, and that's what's fun about getting married. You get what you want. Right. But when corporate, so we were very sensitive to that. And we knew it because we worked for corporate. So when they came to us, our question was, okay, well, what budget are we working with? And then they would turn around and say, oh, thanks for asking. And this is our budget. And then because, we'd send them a wish list and they go, oh, we really like this, but we can't afford this. And we say, that's fine. And so we've been known in Balloonatics in the corporate world. That's our main account. Probably 90% of our business is corporate.
Okay.
And then the other 10% is actually family of corporate because we get all these referrals. And so we really enjoy doing that because we work under a process at Balloonatics called we call them SBUs, which are small business units. So we have a printing division, that's a business unit. We have the delivery division, which is international. People order from us from all over the world and we deliver there. locally with Tri-County we deliver. And then we have the events and prop company, which is the Proper Image. So we have several divisions within the company, which gives everybody a stake in it, our team, and it makes them feel really responsible for their own little business, which is fun.
I love it. I love it. I can see like a reality show, the Balloon Empire.
It's funny. Someone asked me once to do a reality show and I turned it down, and my daughters still are not talking to me about that. They're like, how could you turn that down? I go, oh no, we work with family. So can you imagine the family drama? Yeah, no, it's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
So 30 years ago, prior to getting into this business, did you say that you and your husband were in the corporate world? I think you mentioned that.
We
right?
were. We worked for a company called Electronic Data System.
So here's the $1 million question. How do a husband and wife transition from corporate America into the balloon business of all places? Like, what is that something that you had an experience personally at a party or something that piqued an interest that, we could do this? Or like, how did that happen for you guys 30 years ago?
That's exactly how it happened. There was a lady in Miami who she would do balloon baskets, and I wasn't into the delivery process, but then I went to a fundraiser and she had these beautiful balloon decor throughout the room. And I was like, oh my God, that's so great. That's it. It was beautiful. Filed that in the back of my head. And then one day, when we were struggling, we're like, what could we do to make this happen? And at a very, very, very small scale. I mean, when I say we just wanted extra cash, because my husband was doing jobs painting after work. So on weekends he would do painting just to, kind of make ends meet. And when you're 30, that's when you should be working hard, so we were doing that. We were making sure that we had a nice life plan. So when we saw this, we just started selling these balloons. And again, we didn't think this was going to be a big business at all. So we weren't going to transition. We were just doing this as a side hustle. And then with the chamber event, then we realized we were doing every single Marlins game. So then I was taking vacation days to do Marlins games. And then I was taking leave of absence to do a Marlins game because they went to World Series. So we did their 93, I think, was it 93 or 96? I'm looking here because I have the sign. I think it was 93. But anyways, we did that World Series. And then later, I think it was 2003. So we came to the realization I left first because I was working on my master's. And that's a whole different story. But I had graduated from my master's. I started teaching at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. So I had gauged myself. I literally had a log saying, okay, when I reach this goal, I can leave corporate world because I was traveling a lot. And with the kids and, the master's, it was a little hard to do and to juggle. So when we reached a certain goal, I left corporate first. And then a year later, 2 years later, my husband left corporate and joined us, which was the best thing that ever happened because now you've got two great forces, really with the same goal, which was great.
So it was a slow transition. You didn't just drop everything and jump in.
No, and I never recommend that. I mean, so many people who want to become entrepreneurs, I always say, just, start part-time. Yeah. Because, you start with the concept of balloons and doing decor, and we really do the decoration part, and we get to create an environment for our members and our clients. But not everybody forgets about the bookkeeping and the sales, and now social media,
the fun stuff.
So. It's hard because as the business owner, then you end up just doing the bookkeeping and you never do what you started with, which was, the artistic piece.
So, and you could lose the passion quickly if you get bogged down in all the other roles that you have to play. So it's important to, as you scale up, to find other people to do the things that you don't want to focus your attention on, so you could do what you're passionate about, and that's what drives you to move forward for sure.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I love it. I love everything I do. I'm really lucky. Time management is key, though.
Indeed. So ZADAC Research and Development.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I graduated with my doctorates in leadership and education, I started ZADAC Research and Development. That was 2007. And it was really what I did for corporate at EDS, which was taking a look at the behavior of an environment and creating strategies to help them. So at ZADAC Research and Development, my title is a behavioral strategist. You can be a small business or a large business. It's going into your business and saying, and just having a conversation and being a part of it, not coming in knowing what to do because I have no clue. So if I go into your business and I'll spend 2 weeks with you and I'm basically your employee, you tell me what to do. And then throughout that, you can see the struggles, the frustrations, you really become part of the environment. You walk the talk, I'll walk my talk with you because I'm going to be really coming in with a very open mind. And then we create an environment that's working. It's not changing your business, it's tweaking it. I have this process called life editing because we all go into therapy because I was practicing therapist for 27 years. And we all walk in going, so how should I change? No, you shouldn't change at all. We're going to tweak whatever you want to tweak. And I think that gives the client a better perspective because how great to be who you are. And we all know and we all hear we're not perfect. Of course we're not. But what do you really want to change? What do you really want to modify? So I do that. We do a lot of tweaking and sometimes what you think you need to change, and I'll use the word change because that's what everybody uses, you really don't. That's probably your superpower.
Very interesting.
It is. It's
behavioral strategy. I love that idea of coming in and again, not kind of dictating what somebody needs to do, but living their process. And
yes.
As you said, kind of being like an employee, like you tell me what to do and then you observe and you get their perspective and you take it in and then you can share your thoughts and your perspective with them. It's a great approach. Because so you come into somebody and you try to dictate how they should operate their business and you try to impose your way of thinking on them. It might not jive well with them. And
right.
You're going to have problems there. So
yeah.
I love
and
that.
It's funny because we had an admin when I worked for corporate that we went into her department and there were just little things going on that the manager wasn't sure of. And it's easy as a manager to go around and say, oh, I don't like the way she's answering the phone or the time of answering the phone is not correct. And I was trained at EDS under Deming's quality improvement, which we focus on the quality, not the quantity. So that's really important. So let's say she's not answering the phone every 3 minutes, but the person she's on the phone with, she's giving them 100% care. What do you want to meet? Your numbers of answering the phone, or do you want that person that you hung up with to be happy? So we start looking at all that. And I remember sitting with her and saying, okay, just tell me what you want. She goes, what? No one's ever asked. and it's like, we just had such a great conversation. We went to lunch. I sat there, I answered the phones. I got a feel for who calls and how frustrating it could be trying to always have the right answer for that person. And it was so refreshing because when you, again, are in their world, you really get to understand them. And we know that it's such a simple process, but we're always trying to meet the numbers in corporate, which the gentleman we worked for, which was Ross Perot, he did not believe in that. He believed in our hierarchy of needs was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and his employees were at the top. You don't see that in corporate.
Very interesting. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about the chamber.
Yes.
So I know you were a past president of the chamber at one point.
Yes, correct? In 2002.
And you've been involved with the board.
2002 and 2020. Yes.
Okay, right. So going back to when you started Balloonatics and you got kind of pulled into the chamber, into that orbit, how long was it until you actually got involved directly in a leadership role in the chamber, and how did that start and where did that go from there?
Right. So let's see, 1993, I became, started to get involved. I think 1997, I became part of the board. And then in 2002, I became president. So that was the process there going. I was very, very active in the chamber. I really became part of the communication committee. I was working on my dissertation, and part of it was in leadership. I was working on governance. So I did this proposal to I created this, I think it was like a checklist of who should be on the board, because before it was like very random, who wants to be on the board. So based on the leadership at that time, the board at that time, we found that, we needed to have specific criteria. So it fell right in place with my dissertation. So I worked on a proposal and a practicum, and I proposed it to the board. And then that really changed the whole process, how we did, elections, and how we did, committee members, like how to grow our committee members, mentor our committee members to become strong leaders in the community. So that led to 2002, I was president. And then 2003, my mom got sick. So I stepped down and I left the chamber. And then in 2018, Diane Grant, who was incoming president of the chamber at that time, called me and said, listen, why don't you come back? It's really changed. Things have happened. And I said, okay, I'll go. And I did. And a year later, I was back on the board and doing great things. We have a great board of directors. I mean, I can't be happier about that. And so then that was in 2018, 2020, I became president again. And then for
second term, eh?
Second term.
Can you have a third term, or is that precluded?
I think you can. You should. Yes. Well,
gotta check the bylaws.
Right. According to the bylaws, it's let's see. It's according to the bylaws. It's you have to be 1 year off the board, and then you can come back on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've had a wonderful experience with the chamber over the last couple of years, met so many great people. What would you say to any business owners out there that haven't had the opportunity to get involved with the chamber? What would be your call to action to them to maybe get them involved in the mix?
There's a trick to the chamber. There really is. There's a strategy, when we're talking about strategies, and the strategy is sometimes the luncheons aren't always for you, and you go to the lunches. So you really have to sit with one of us, and even with other business members, and say, what works for you? Why are you successful? Like I just got off the phone with one of our businesses, and she was asking, oh, should I do this? And I go, no, don't do that. Don't put your money there. Don't even put your money anywhere. Do this. So I think that's what's really cool. It's understanding what works. Now the chamber without a doubt works. I mean, we're talking about social media and networking. This is key. And it's interesting. I'm sure you're on TikTok, but I love TikTok. I love business TikTok. And I was listening to the young people that have all these businesses now on TikTok, which I absolutely love. And one young lady was saying, you know what I just found out? I found out that there's a chamber. And you know what the chamber does? It introduces you to people. And I was like, I love this. So
future president in the making.
Yes. So, and that is so right. So what we've been doing, we started the business crawls, and that took place last night, and it was beyond my expectations.
Yeah. I saw some correspondence about that. Tell us a little bit about what the business crawl is. So
the business crawl started, I was in Chicago and I saw the bar crawl. And I'm like, what is this? My daughters were like, oh, this is where you kind of bar hop. And I'm like, that's fascinating.
I like that.
Yeah. And so I said, how great would it be to do this, but in a business, kind of arena?
Well, wait, hold on. Are you guys drinking on the party bus for the business crawl, or is no alcohol?
not.
Oh man, come on.
That I know of, but you can bring a drink because of thirst.
You have to have two business crawls. You have one like during the work week where you go around, and then you have another one where you go out and visit the businesses that operate after hours and everybody drinks, right?
I think that's a great idea. And they're Uber.
I don't even drink that much though.
This nice bus, which actually I've got to give a shout out to Nova, because Nova Southeastern they're our trustees, and they are so amazing. They provided us with the buses, the shuttles, and they're nice air conditioned shuttles. So we're going to break it up into two pieces. One is the business crawl, which is for businesses. And then the town crawl is the up and coming committee and the tourism committee for the students. Now in August, we get 8,000 new freshmen into the university, and they're from out of town, the majority of them. So we're going to have this town crawl, and we're going to take them to the businesses and introduce them to the community. So we're real excited about that. So yesterday we had our first one. We had 5 businesses that we showcased. And we just first of all, we had a great time on the bus, but we got to see the behind the scenes of the rodeo, and Troy Weekly, who owns 5-Star Davie Pro Rodeo. Yeah. He took us behind the scenes to where the cows are, the bulls are. I mean, the cowboys. It was fascinating. And then from there, we had the Davie Women's Clubs, which you've been there. So they learned the history. We went to the Old Davie Schoolhouse, which they also shared all these events that they have there, great rental space. And then from there, we went to Semaday Dental. Who would think you would have so much fun at the dentist? They had a blast.
Alex is fantastic. He's a good friend of mine.
Oh, good. Yeah. You got 3 new clients from this. So that made me smile.
Wonderful. Actually, I run every Saturday morning with Alex. We meet. He lives down in Miami Lakes. I live in Cooper City. We meet at the Home Depot parking lot in Miramar. It's kind of equidistant from us. And we go out and we run in the morning, early Saturday morning. It's always a wonderful, wonderful way to start the weekend.
Oh, he's amazing.
It really is.
Actually, I have high hopes for him because he's a great speaker. So I want to connect him with, some people that we know and make sure that he, gets showcased because he's phenomenal. And then we ended up at the pizza salad at Point right there on, I think it's Orange and Griffin. It's the new pizza place, and Isaac is the owner, and he just spoiled us with food, just provided, and this amazing food. So it was really a success. Everybody was just so happy. And that's what it's about. I mean, making that connection. And the reason that started was it's easy for me to say, oh, go see Jeremy. He's in this corner in, let's say university. I don't know exactly where you're at. I'm sorry. But versus saying, hey, we're taking you over to Jeremy.
Yeah. And
now people will drive by and go, I was there. And for some reason, it's like now it becomes familiar. It's all psychological. It's just, introducing that person, bringing them to who you think they should connect with. So, and it's all free. That's a great thing. We're not charging anybody anything. We're not charging the members to showcase. We're not charging the members to go. And I love free.
If it's free, it's for me.
As it should be. You're paying your membership, and we're all struggling, right? I mean, to be paying $5 for this, $10 for this, gets a little crazy.
Yeah, I love I'm kicking myself for not hopping on the first bus, but I'm gonna make sure I go on the next one. That's a wonderful idea, right? Bring the chamber to the businesses. I love it.
And goes back to that. Lunches are great,
but you got to go.
Network. You may be able to network, but everybody's in a rush.
Yep.
But we still have the lunches because people want to show up. And as long as our members want it, we'll have it. I mean, and we love having it, and we still get to showcase other members. But I think the business crawl is going to be a lot bigger than we thought. We're doing it once a month. Next month, it's Cooper City, and it's logistical. Yeah, it's logistical. So we already have people hopping on the bus, literally.
I'll be there. Sign me up.
I will. So, and it'll be on the website too. So if anybody wants to, they can definitely sign up on the website.
Very cool. So speaking of chamber lunches, my favorite lunch that I attended was actually the one that was hosted by your 2 lovely daughters.
Which one was that?
So it was a few months ago, and they did they themed it as obviously kind of like an improv type impromptu lunch where we just got the chance to speak to our neighbor and kind of interview them and learn about them and then share with the group. It was just very fun and lively. So, which brings me to the next topic of discussion, family. Tell us a little bit. I mean, I love what they do. Like I said, I've had Angelica on the podcast. I love what they do. This is Improv and the historical ghost tours. Really, really good stuff. So tell us a little bit about the family.
Yeah, that really makes me smile. So it's interesting because, they've been working with the balloon business. I literally tell them when they were in their stroller, they would hold balloons for me, because I had to go to a delivery and I'm like, okay, I got to take the girls, so they have that great business sense. But when they decided, when they were graduating from college, they have this is Improv. They were trained by an amazing gentleman called Mark Duncan, who unfortunately passed away very young at NSU. He was one of the professors and chairs of the department. So once they decided, Angelica wanted to be a writer. And when she went to her counselor at school, she says, I want to be a writer. And the writer told her, the counselor said, well, you can be a school teacher. That's as much as you can do with writing. And I remember she got home and she was upset. She was like about 16. And I said, well, she's right. That's what, there's writing teachers. But I think maybe she didn't understand that you want to write, like scripts and things like that. So I had been introduced to Second City a couple of years before that. And I said, listen, there's this place called Second City. Why don't we go for the summer? You take a class and see, and they'll teach you whatever you need and ask questions, whatever you need to know. And that led her to that journey. She did an improv class at NSU, which really that's where it started, with the improv with Mark. And then here we are. She wanted, when she graduated, she's like, I really love the writing, which she writes scripts. She's won awards for that. And then Alexander was a great director. So she was a theater major at NSU, directs like no one's business, can build a prop that nobody would even know she could build. So together they decided to create in 2015, This is Improv. And the whole deal was that Angelica was shy. So that helped her through it. So she wanted to give back to the community. And that was our rule in our family business. Whatever you do, it has to be done with good intent. So we're not here to make the money. The money will come. And if not, we get 3, 4, 5 jobs. We all know that. But it has to be humble and it has to be with good intent. And they followed that to the core. And when they started evolving in This is Improv and teaching kids how to feel good about themselves and have a voice in the community, they developed This is Life Unscripted. And that's a 501c3. And that's to give kids, again, a voice in the community, and they give scholarships so kids can take improv classes and feel heard. And that evolved into business, because then they got calls from big corporate clients saying, listen, we need to do this with our employees. They don't feel like they have a voice.
Yeah.
And so it evolved, and they started growing and growing. And it's just phenomenal what that is. We don't take the arts as seriously as we should. The arts is really a huge psychological component for our well-being. It really is. When we take a look at the arts, it teaches us how to get along with people. It teaches us how to encourage ourselves, that we understand that rehearsals are important in life. Everything in life. One of the great stories, we had a young lady who wanted to be a school teacher, and she went to 4 interviews and would start crying in all the interviews and obviously not get the job. So we brought her in. I work with them in the behavioral part, and Angelica created a curriculum for her, and we kind of did a sketch. And Angelica was the interviewer. I was the observer. And my deal was giving her feedback on body language, which is 80% of our communication, and watching what made her passionate, just observing her and making sure I understood her. And so from that, Angelica taught her techniques on interviewing, and tough ones too. Put her in situations that made her uncomfortable, but it was in a safe space. So she goes to her next interview. She has no experience. And the key we had her walk away with is, you have a passion, show your passion. Just remember your passion for these kids. And they were special needs kids. So she went to her interview. As she was walking to the parking lot, the principal calls her and says, listen, you have no experience, but your passion came through, and hired her. She called us right away. She goes, you're not going to believe this. And I go, we do believe it. You have a heart of gold. It's all you. You did all this. And that's the key to the success. And it works. And people get nervous because you go, oh, let's do improv, let's play. But it is a game changer in your life. So many things.
So much of what you said resonates with me on a deep level. Like when we're children, we have no filter. We express ourselves fully, but somewhere along the way, society dictates that you have to bottle all that up and you have to hold it within. And then we get all self-conscious about all these things. And what are people going to think about this and that? And then most people live their whole lives not truly expressing themselves and really tapping into their hidden potential within, for fear of expectations, what other people think, all this stuff you get in your own head. It's something that I've really, really dived deep into. I play the guitar. I've always wanted to sing and play, but my singing voice has always been not great. And I've been telling myself this story forever now that I guess I can't sing. And the truth is, I've never actually tried. I've never put the work in. I've never actually tried to get better at it. And now I've been practicing a lot, and I'm starting to see the improvements. And yeah, maybe I'll never be a Grammy award-winning artist. Okay, that's fine. But you know what? I can create something that people will appreciate and that put a good vibe out in the universe, and that's all that really matters. So
exactly. We go to open mic night. I've seen
the flyers and the emails, and I want to go, and I will go at some point. It's just, again, it goes back to what I said about being self-conscious and worried. I think what do they say? People are more afraid of public speaking than they are of death or something.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Right? And then performing, and for me with the voice, or even like stand-up comics, right? I can't imagine going on a stage and trying to do a stand-up, because every stand-up comic has bombed at one point. And that feeling has got to be incredibly terrifying.
Right.
But the growth potential, like having gone through that, you're like, I dealt with that. I could deal with anything now. So yeah, I want to do that too. I want to do stand-up, but my material might be too inappropriate for the open mic night with you guys. So.
Oh yeah. Well, you can tweak it, but it's so funny because that is so true. It's the open mic night. What I love is that there's so many performers there and they're supportive. Like, you're not going to get, like you said, a Grammy award-winning performance. I was having such a great time because it's such a safe space. And that's the arts, right? We all support ourselves. Even if you don't have that high-pitched voice that some people want to hear, the key is that we know that you're there, and you're there with your heart. Yes. You're sharing your heart, and everybody's like the energy in the room was so amazing, because I hadn't been to any of them. And then I went with Heidi, actually, from the chamber, and it was amazing. Sometimes I get teary-eyed because you see these people, they're so brave. They go on stage, but they're amazing. And the support in the audience was great. And that's improv too. And again, we go back to the arts. My goal and the girls' wish and dream is to create an arts area in Davie, just of the arts. Just like they have in Second City. So like have a corner of Davie somewhere where everybody goes and shares the arts. And so we'll see. Maybe it'll happen at the Davie Women's Club because it's such a great corner. And we can do that once a month. So there's a lot of plans moving forward that we're really excited about. We have a lot of artists reaching out to us. The old Davie Schoolhouse is an amazing place too to do that. So we're kind of starting. And I think you're going to see more and more of the arts surfacing. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I love the arts. And I just had actually Judy Dempsey from Montessori, Summit Questo Montessori. We just did a podcast together, and we were talking a lot about the traditional education system where it's geared toward the hard sciences and math. There's a lot of the arts are oftentimes left out, and it is just so important for children to have that in their lives from an early age and to continue on.
It really is. I bring it to, I teach at NSU, and I bring that into the classroom. first thing they have to do in my intro to psych class is they have to draw their soul. And it is the craziest thing.
Draw your soul.
Draw your soul. Try that.
That's an interesting exercise. I love that.
Do that at the chamber, don't you think?
Yes.
Do that.
Draw your soul.
Yeah, and we have different souls. So the whole thing started because people get confused with personality. Oh, this is my personality, and I'm like, oh.
Talk about a question to ask to get somebody to think deeply about themselves. Draw your soul. Huh. Okay.
I chuckle because my students, some of them they're great artists. So they draw these souls and I take pictures of them and I say, I have your soul on my phone. And they look at me and they go, Mr. Zeta, that's really freaky. And I go, but it's such a beautiful soul. So, I love that. It's a great exercise. That's a whole different podcast, I think, but it's a great exercise. And you really connect with who you are. And then I take a look at it because drawing is so important. You know, there's therapeutic drawing, and I take a look at it and then I talk to them and they go, are you a psychic? And I go, no, I just read your soul. So they tell me the story. I share their story and then they validate it. And I love it.
That's good stuff. So we're all shaped by our experiences, and oftentimes it's the most trying experiences that while we're going through it, right, we're in the weeds and we're like, oh, why do I have to experience this? But then kind of with perspective, looking back with hindsight, you kind of draw upon that experience and say like, you're grateful for having gone through that. Is there something that comes to mind in your journey? One of those experiences, a life hardship, a challenge, something that you struggled with tremendously along the way that at the time, having gone through it, you thought it was kind of the end of the world, but now looking back, you can say that you're grateful for having experienced that?
You know, it's interesting. My knee-jerk reaction to that is the passing of my mom was extremely difficult. She was way ahead of her time. She was a housewife for so many years. She came from Cuba when she was 27 with 3 kids. And she was always her headspace was always in the educational realm. Like she was a great educator in life, and she loved teaching kids how to read. Actually, she had a very thick accent, but taught children how to read English, and they never came out with an accent. So I don't have an accent. So, I was always going, how did that happen? Like, how did you do that? So she was like a magical unicorn in literature. So that was extremely devastating for all of us because we could always go to her and say, she was such a great problem solver. So we could always go to her and say, how do we fix this? And trust me, I think what I learned was it was never the answer I wanted to hear, but it was the answer I needed to hear. And that shook us. But I guess what helped us with her passing, because that's my dissertation was on death and dying because she passed, and I teach death and dying in school now. And she taught us how to create that foundation. And my focus has always been to live and be true to her legacy. So it was a devastating blow. It's been 20 years and we still struggle. In fact, today's her birthday. So that's an interesting conversation that just blew my mind. But she really showed me that I needed to stay strong, even after her passing. I needed to take that and everything that she taught us now was the moment to put it into action. Especially with the girls. She loved children and she knew how to listen to people. So when the girls were growing up, my intent was always having that voice. My mom's voice was, what are they trying to tell you? Don't let them make a decision. They're too young. Because a lot of people we hear now is like, oh, they need to decide for themselves and they're 15, 16, 17. And she was like, no, your job is to make the decisions for them until they're able to make the decisions for them. And right now they're not. And balancing that. So she was always a great listener, but her passing really made me so much stronger. So yeah, it was, I would say that would be it. That's what's coming to mind.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to not lose anybody. I've lost grandparents, but I haven't really lost anybody too close to me. But I can imagine that having that experience, obviously when it happens, you go through grief and all this emotion at the time, but it's got to give you a deeper appreciation for the time that we do have here strengthen the current relationships that you have, especially with your children. Because I mean, it's one thing I'm noticing on the north side of 40 now, like time is fleeting. I remember in my 30s, I was like, oh, I got plenty of time. I'll do it later, but not anymore. Like I'm starting to look, you look on social media and you see all the actors that were young when we were younger, and they're all getting older now. And you're like, wait a minute, like this, got to make the best use of our time that we have available, because we don't have a lot of time left.
It is.
Not to sound bleak or anything, but it's
it's not. You are so absolutely right. And when I teach my students on death and dying, their final exam is they have to prepare their own funeral. And they have to write their eulogy. Mm-hmm. And they struggle with their eulogy because all they can think of is, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be, it's a title. And then I show them Steve Jobs' eulogy, and I show them Muhammad Ali's eulogy, and nobody mentioned their awards. It didn't matter. Nobody mentioned, Steve Jobs' creation of Apple. It was how kind he was as a human being. And we will remember who we were in the sense of what we gave to the community. If you were a billionaire and you were a doctor, but you were a jerk to everybody, that's what they're going to remember. So the students get a grasp, and the exercise we do to get them there is I ask them to list all the qualities their parents have. And a lot of them, they have successful parents. None of them say, oh, my dad's a surgeon. They'll mention how kind they are, what they do, how their memories. And I said, now you've just created your eulogy. How many of you would like to be like your parents and have that legacy? And then they get it. So I think that what they walk away with is learning how to live now so that they have a goal for when life is over. And we do a kind of, I guess, an exercise that jolts them, because we take the age they have, and we say, okay, you want to live to 100. So you multiply the days you have left to 100. So if you're, 40 or like me, 62, you turn around and you're like, oops, I got some numbered days here. So we no longer have all those 36,000 days, so that puts like a big jolt and say, okay, do I really want to spend time with people that don't touch my soul, that they don't make me feel good? Why am I here? And so many times we think we have to be, and we really don't. And I think that if we live our life saying, okay, where am I going to serve and serve the best of my ability, then that changes the whole game. When people go, how do you do everything you do? And I go, it's not work. It's all interrelated. And I'm very selective, because I think it's really important that the world sometimes gets a little angry, and we don't have to jump on that wagon at all. And we have to respect those that are angry and say, okay, how can I help?
Yep.
And sometimes you can't, and you have to step away, just like in therapy. The struggle that we have as therapists is that we can't have people see what we see in them and how great they are. And you walk away, and sometimes, and I was always very clear with my clients. I was like, that makes me sad that you don't see how great you are. And that shifts them, because I'm not trying to change them. I'm trying to say, this is what I'm seeing. You're so amazing. And I unless you're in a serial killer capacity, you're an amazing person, So, we'll see. I mean, I just really wish that people would really connect on, just touch base on asking them, what have I done that's so wrong that doesn't make me a good person today? And you don't have that answer. Nobody has an answer, because they'll turn around and go, I'm not. I did pretty well today.
Yeah. So. And we could always do better, and we could always improve. So no matter what's happened in the past, you could always get better and grow and do good.
Yeah. I mean, the next day is a new, fresh day. It really is. I mean, if we just follow nature and we take a look at Mother Nature, who is an incredible educator, nothing's perfect. Branches aren't perfect. They don't go all straight. The leaves fall and new ones grow, and it's just beautiful. So.
Coco, we hear you. Thank you for joining us.
Oh,
my doggie's barking in the background.
I love it.
Come here, buddy. So Aimee, you truly are a wealth of knowledge. Your wisdom shines through in everything that you're doing. For anybody out there that's listening that would like to connect with you, either for a party for the balloon business or for through ZADAC Research and Development to get in there with your behavioral strategist that you talked about, which I love, or just to join the chamber, how could they reach out to you? How could they connect?
Yeah, my cell, they can call anytime, text me anytime. So my cell phone is the easiest way. So that's 954-261-5749. Text me. If I don't answer, text me. That means I'm in a meeting, but I will return the call or text, whatever makes anybody comfortable. And reach out. I mean, there's so many great things out there. There's so much in the community. And everybody like you're doing, oh my God, the members are so happy to be on your podcast. So I appreciate that so much. It's amazing. The information's amazing. You're an amazing host. So I think that connecting the right people to the right people is key. And I'm more than happy to do that. I love doing that.
Awesome. And we will, of course, link in the description to all of your contact information so folks can reach out and learn more about what you do. So Aimee, thanks for joining us today. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Jeremy. Same here.
Yeah. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in, and we will catch everyone next time on the next episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Everyone take care and have a blessed day.
Thanks for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast, Cooper City. To nominate your favorite local business to be featured on the show, go to gnpcoopercity.com. That's gnpcoopercity.com, or call 954-231-3170.